Hello, welcome to hands-on-sap.com. This is Hassan Mir. In this tutorial, I'm going to talk about SAP transport process. So we already know that in a company we have three boxes: development box, test, QA box, and production box. And within dev box we have multiple clients, usually configuration, sandbox, and development test. In a test box we have QA test client and some training clients. In production we have one client called production. Now, transport is a mechanism to move configuration from one client to the other. The target client could reside in the same environment. As you can see here, the configuration client is the source client, and the configuration is being moved to the development test client, which is the target client. And both of these clients are residing in the same box, development box. Or the target client could reside in a different environment. For example, here the configuration is being moved to the training environment, and the training client is residing in a different box. Okay, so in terms of the setup, what you do is you divide all the setup tasks into multiple areas. For example, you can say one area belongs to a general ledger setup, another area belongs to payable setup, or you can divide the tasks more broadly, like this is financial setup, this is costing setup. But bottom line is that you divide the task into multiple areas, and you assign each area to one or more consultants, to a group of consultants. Okay, so they own the setup area. Now, a transport. What is a transport? Transport is simply a group of tasks. Okay, so this is a transport, and this transport has multiple tasks, like 4 tasks here. Now, a task basically contains changes to the table. So these are basically instructions for changing something in the table. So one transport is basically group of table changes. Now, consultants create a transport, and of course they create a transport for their own setup area. So all tasks within the consultant's transport would contain changes to the table that belongs to the same setup area that this consultant owns. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to say. This is a consultant. If this consultant creates a transport, then all the tasks within this transport will be related to the setup area that this consultant is working on. This consultant cannot create a transport that belongs to a setup area that is owned by some other consultant. Okay, so it's very important that these consultants create transports only for their setup area, and no other consultant should be creating transport for this consultant's setup area. Okay, now this is how the transport process looks like. This is the client 1 and this is the client 2. So this is the source client and this is the target client. A transport is going to be created in client 1 by consultants. Each consultant would be creating transport of their own setup area. Bottom line is that the transport will be created at client 1. Now, the transport is basically copied over to the client 2 so that the same changes happens in the client 2 as well. Now, consultants create transports of their setup area at client 1, and the basis group is responsible for copying over the transport. So each group should understand their responsibility, otherwise major integration issues could come up. Okay, so basis group is mainly responsible for moving the transport over to the target client. There are sometimes exceptions are made where consultants transport their own client own setup areas over to the development test environment, but usually basis group is responsible for carrying this task. So this is pretty much it for this tutorial, and I'm gonna see you in the next tutorial.